What a night we have for you tonight. My first guest, and we use this term from time to time on the show in introducing people. We say a show business legend, and tonight we're not kidding. Ginger Rogers is here tonight. Her career spans over half a century, from vaudeville to motion pictures to television. She won the Academy Award in 1940 for her role in Kitty Foyle. She starred with Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, Henry Fonda, and of course in the most memorable of all musicals, she played with Fred Astaire. Now she's getting her dancing shoes shined up again because later on tonight, Friday, Ginger will be starring across the street here at Rockefeller Center at the Radio City Music Hall in a salute to the dance called a Rockette Spectacular, which plays from tomorrow, which is May 2nd, until the 26th of May. Ginger Rogers here tonight, and we'll chat with her in just a couple of seconds. With me also now, soon to be appearing at the Radio City Music Hall in a Rockette Spectacular, here is Ginger Rogers, still going strong after 50 years. How come you'd go do something like this? Haven't you had it yet?
I love challenges, my goodness. It's fun to have challenges.
What is this show? What do you do in this now?
Well, I do, of course, a little spot. I've been doing the Ginger Rogers show all over the world, practically. I've just come back from Paris, where I played the Olympia, and I've just come back from Buenos Aires after playing there for a couple of weeks. So I've enjoyed playing the Ginger Rogers show, and there's a portion of that in this show at the Music Hall. And I'm doing a number, not with the Rockettes, unfortunately. I wish I were. But I'm doing a number with the boys. I call them the Rockers.
Okay. Just the rocks would be fine.
Yeah. Rockers. So that is actually, basically, it has songs and dances, songs that have to do with the history, and then when it comes my turn to do my part of the show, which is about 12 or 13 minutes, I do songs and have the boys around me, of course.
Probably some of the songs that we'd recognize, huh, if we were...
I would say one or two. One or two.
Do you have a favorite of all the ones?
Yes,
do you?
I do. I think the Gershwin song, They Can't Take That Away From Me, has always been a favorite of mine. And of course, it's awfully hard to top some of the Berlin things, like Isn't It a Lovely Day, and Top Hat, and You Say Either and I Say Either. But I do these kinds of things in my show.
When you go to Buenos Aires or you go to France, how do your audiences react to you when they see you in person? Many of them probably never saw you in person before, maybe saw a movie a couple, 2, 3 years ago at least, and all of a sudden, there you are.
I was so thrilled with the way I was received in Paris, and I had such fun because I have a little fractured French. I can speak with them, and I introduced my show in French, and I talked to them in French, and I said I was taking a page out of Mr. Maurice Chevalier's book, because he used to come here to America, and he would sing in French, but he would tell you what he was going to sing in English, and then you thought you heard it in English. So I kind of told them that that's what I was going to do, which I did. And when I went to I don't speak Buenos Aires. I don't speak a word of Spanish, unfortunately, but I did learn a Spanish song. So at the end of my show, I closed with a Spanish song. They were so wonderful to me. I cannot tell you what it's something that's it's inexplicable, the love that they seem to express towards you.
When you were on the streets in Paris, how'd you get along with the French people when you weren't on the stage?
Oh, fine.
Really? Because one hears that they can be extremely difficult because of the language, and we don't speak it that well.
No.
And they're very proud of their language and very precise about it.
Yeah, and I love their language, too. And I think when you try to speak their language, they may be a little bit upset at you at first, but they really love the fact that you take the trouble. And that seemed to be the way it happened from the stage. I spoke to them, and every once in a while I'd make really a boo-boo. I'd make a mistake, and they'd laugh. And so I'd say, how do you say that? And somebody'd say it for me, and then I'd say it correctly.
Okay.
So that's fun. And they were, in Spanish, of course, I couldn't do that, unfortunately. But wherever I go, and whatever country I'm in England I've had it's something that's so special and so super. It's even hard to talk about how nice they are to you.
Are you going to be nervous tomorrow night? Do you have stage fright yet?
I never have stage fright until I just go on, and then I go for a little while. Then after the hum-dubs gets over, then I'm fine.
What about your career itself? I read about you, and somebody wrote that the secret of your success was your great versatility. You can sing, you can dance, you can act. And you did this and do this in an age when most people are specialized. They don't do all three of those things at one time.
They can, but they don't. There are lots of people who can, but there are lots of people who don't want to.
Did you study a lot at that?
No, I didn't have a chance to do that, Tom. I was on the stage before I knew it. I really was, and I had to learn my craft as I went. I had to learn it as, you know, the Bible says, write the words on plain on the table so that they who run may read, and I've had to have that happen to me.
How did that go in the Bible again?
It says, write it plain. I didn't say it right.
Oh.
Write it plain upon the tables so that those who run may read. And so I've had to run and learn and run and read and run and do this in my career.
You said you were pushed on the stage. When did that happen?
When I was, I won a Charleston contest when I was 12. And so that is the thing that started me off. I had no desire to be in show business because I was so in love with just people who were in show business that it didn't occur to me that it was something I could do. So when I won this threw me on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
From the contest, I was automatically put on the stage to perform my winning. And so I did this down this, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Galveston, Austin, all those places. And then from there on, agents saw me and said, why don't you go to New York? Mother says, no, she's green. We can't have her go until she has a little more patina.
Till she's ready.
Huh?
Till she's ready.
Until she's ready.
Not ready yet.
There's not enough patina.
Yeah.
She says, and so...
I'll bet somewhere Mom is looking down saying she's still green.
Oh, of course. Oh, but what a wonderful mother I had. I must tell you, she was not a stage mother. She was one who she had great intelligence, great knowledge, great wisdom, and she would beat you to the punch. Some people say, how is she so smart? I said, oh, she reads a lot. No, she was really, really fascinating. And I owe really a great deal of this to her. Of course, I've worked very hard to do what I've done. But I must say, her wisdom, her guiding light, that was the important thing.
Was she scared of her lovely daughter going into showbiz with all the sharks and all the...
she was in kind of show business in California. She was a scenario writer. She wrote for people whose names no one, I guess, at this moment remembers, but because I've heard her speak, the Lee Kids, which are two youngsters, and Baby Marie Osborne. My mother wrote scenarios.
That name I've heard. That name I've heard.
Oh, she wrote things not consistently, but every once in a while she'd come up with a script and they'd make a film out of it. One of those little films about, 3.5 reels or 4 reels. And they said to her, why don't you bring your daughter in from Kansas City and we'll make a star of her. I was about this high. She said, my daughter will never go through what these youngsters go through and never will let her do that. No, sir, I've seen them slapped around too much. Happily, they don't do that anymore. We have rules and regulations.
What do you mean slapped around?
Children, make them cry. Say, you've got to have tears in this scene.
You got to be kidding me. And they whack them across?
Off the scene, they whack them across the face, and they say, all right, now cry when you get in the scene. So they did.
What's wrong with that?
Well, get the wagon for him.
Let me do spots here. We'll continue with Ginger Rogers from New York after this for the NBC television stations.
They're writing songs of love, but not for me. A lucky stars above, but not for me.
To Ginger, and one of our photographers here, Freddie Hermansky, was a photographer on the set of a show that you did here in 1954, live dramatic. What was that show?
It was a live, my very first television show, and it was called Tonight at 8:30. It was the Noel Coward show, and it was 3 plays in one night. And so I did Red Peppers, which was with this wonderful comedian, and...
well, now, wait, I think we got the picture of you and Trevor Howard. I'm showing this one.
Oh,
right
yes,
here,
that's the one with Trevor Howard. That was the second one. That was, what's the name of the thing?
You don't have to remember it all. We sprung this on you as a bit of surprise, so come on. We were talking about it, and I said, let's show the photographs.
Yes, because it was 90 minutes, live, 3 different characters in one night, and here we are. Let's see, what is that?
Well, here we see...
Oh, yes, that's Fred Coe.
Okay.
Fred Coe with Otto Preminger, the director, and
if you look very carefully, you can see that Otto Preminger's got a little hair on the top of his head here. Just a little peach fuzz up there at the temples, huh?
I saw him the other night at 21. He looks well.
Who, Otto?
Otto.
Mean as ever. we had him in here plugging his movie, The Human Factor. He's as mean as ever. Yeah, he's a mean man. He's a mean man. He gives me no respect at all.
Gig Young was in this, but I don't have... That's me.
Oh, that's you.
That's me.
Mit wig on, huh?
Mit red wig, doing red peppers.
And then now, who would this guy be back here?
This would be the gentleman whose name I should remember.
But we can't.
Don't
Okay.
say.
Okay, we won't.
Can't say at the moment. Isn't that terrible?
Now here is. Wait, let me show it to Ginger first.
Yeah, let me see who that is. There we are. That's. Yeah, you stuck me again now. I have those wonderful people. I wish somebody'd help me.
That's you in the tuxedo, but here is Preminger again, where you can see the little hair there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was all done live?
All done live.
Did you make
3 shows in one night.
Did you make any mistakes?
Don't ask me because I don't remember. Margaret Hayes was one of them. Yes, there's Margaret.
And now, can you recall
that's the red
this?
peppers. That's Martin Green.
Martin Green.
That's Martin Green right there.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that's Martin. And he was, such a clever fellow. Beautiful man.
Brings back
That's a wonderful memory, you know.
Brings back the memories.
Really, a wonderful memory.
Look at the people you've worked with. I got to ask you about Astaire.
Yeah.
Did you read that Astaire's getting married to this young girl?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that's his business, and I'm glad for it. I'm glad for it. I think if he wants to get married to somebody that he loves, I don't care. I'm glad he's happy. I would want, whatever, somebody told me that about you, said, you were getting married. I know you already are, but I mean, if they said that about you.
No, I'm not. Now, let's not get things crazy here. I mean, don't dry up my supply. I mean...
Oh, you're not married?
No.
Well, I made a picture for that title. We're not married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I lived one.
Well, let's shake hands on that. Okay, there you go.
You got it.
But, no, I think it's marvelous for Fred. If that's true, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to him. But the other night, I won an award. They gave me an award for the National Cartoonist Society, and they called him before the party and asked him to write something, and he wrote, hello, Happy Ace, because that seems to be the letters, and he said, all my love, I'll see you soon, or something, Fred. So I guess he's on his way to Europe.
Might have been Happy Act.
Maybe. Happy, yeah. Happy Ace, that's what they give you, is an ace, a card.
Got you.
They give you an ace because you won the top number.
When you work with him, it's got to be demanding because of his precision,
yes.
and he must be a taskmaster.
Oh, yes, but I am too. I beat myself to do the things all the time. Always, all my life. I've done nothing but woodshed. That's the fun of doing your work.
Now say that word again and tell what it is. That's a great word.
Woodshed is a marvelous word because when you're rehearsing, you have to go off someplace, and generally people who are actors can't find a place to be alone. So they've gone into the woodshed where they chop the wood and sing out and sing their notes and say their lines and speak Shakespeare. And the title has come woodshedding when you rehearse.
It's funny, one of the first TV newsrooms I worked in, I asked one of the fellows who was doing the news, I said, where are you going? I said, I'm going down the hall. He said, I'm going to go in the men's room and woodshed my script. I said, what does that mean? He said, go in and read it aloud so that I know that I have it properly.
I've got one for you.
Okay.
Did you know that there was one time in the history of our theatrical business that off stage they had a ladder, and they'd hang the ladder for the actor who was about to go on stage to be out of breath, angry, and he'd shake the ladder, and he'd sit there and shake the ladder while the people were saying their lines off stage. He'd shake the ladder and he'd come in red-faced, out of breath.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever hear that?
No, never
Shake
did.
the ladder.
I hadn't heard the one where they slapped the kids in the face either.
You have now. You have now.
What was your first, the big thing that you did, the very first thing that you said that really made you the big star?
Well, I don't think any rung of the ladder has been the top rung. I think it's just constantly, it's just constantly going ladder steps up. But I think actually winning the Academy Award for Kitty Fall was, how could I win had a better win? Because here I had these marvelous people, Katharine Hepburn for Philadelphia Story, and Martha Scott for Our Town, and Joan Fontaine for Rebecca, and my film, and then who's the other one? Can't think who the other one was. But it was a pretty, Betty Davis for The Letter. Now let me
get this straight. You're
Hepburn,
sitting out there, probably at the Pantages Theater?
No, this was at the Biltmore Hotel.
Okay.
And it was down in the bowels of the Biltmore with tables for 10 and long tables. The biggest, studio had the longest table, of course. My company, of course, at that time was RKO. And when they nudged me and said, you won, I was stunned. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was so overly excited that I didn't know which way to go. And people were saying, go that way, walk over there. That's where, it's up there, So I got up there, and I was very happy to have Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontaine, who presented it to me, and I thought that was a pretty big thrill, too, to
I
have
would
these
think
two
so.
fabulous people standing there saying, you have just won an Academy Award.
Especially when you consider the league in which you were playing at that time. You're talking Betty Davis and Joan Fontaine
and Katharine Hepburn and Martha Scott.
Pretty heavy hitters.
That's a pretty good win. That's being in a pretty good race.
You know, you read that now if somebody wins an Academy Award, their price per picture goes up, or it's a guarantee of success. Was that true back in 1940?
Always.
Could you give me the contrast and what your demands
of
were?
course, now it's $2 million of view, or $2 million for the next film. I think 400,000 would be the answer, as at that time. You know, if you just won an Academy, you could get $400,000 for the next picture.
Why have the musicals gone away?
Because there are no composers and lyricists to speak of. You know, you have to have music for musical comedies. It's all based on good songs and good lyrics that say something, that go somewhere. And today, everybody says, I love you, I love you, I love you, and by the way, I love you, and that's the name of the song.
No, they say, by the way, I don't love you anymore, and they put up the end, and that's the end of the show. That's what happens there.
But no, we really do need those wonderful people who have the inspiration, and with the songs, of course, a book is comparatively easy to write. It's not easy, but it's comparatively, as compared to the music. And we just don't have those marvelous Irving Berlins like we had, and George and Ira Gershwin, and Dorothy Fields, and Jerome Kern, and Cole Porter, and well, all those marvelous people that Fred and I were so fortunate. And I too, I did 42nd Street with a monocle, and Warren and Dubin wrote the music, and I was very fortunate, really.
Do you have all your films in your possession?
I gave them all to a college in Texas. I had them, and it was like giving somebody your first editions. I have no control of them. I just gave them to a college. And I decided that I saved them and put them in a storage and was paying storage on them for about 25 years.
And
I thought they could use them because they could send them to the schools, these scholars, and all the kids could go and...
Do you like to watch yourself 30 years ago and 40 years ago?
Don't mind it at all.
Really?
Do you mind looking at yourself in a picture that you go home to your mother and you see pictures of you as a baby on a skin? You don't mind that, do you?
Not at all.
No, it's the same difference.
Well, one thinks, that if one is the great leading lady, and as she advances in years, she doesn't want to see, all that stuff.
No, my goodness, no. I don't mind looking at pictures of me since I was this high until now, not at all. No.
So you're comfortable being who you are and being what you are and how old you are, and
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Not a bit. My love for people is just the same. My affection, my friendship, and my individuality has not changed. I am still an individual, as you are.
Now, what does that mean?
That means that you are unique, Tom. Each one of us, all of us, are uniquely you. And there is no one in the whole creation like you. So, isn't that something to be happy about and be joyous about?
I think so.
There's nobody in the world like you. Did you ever think of that?
No.
Well, it's true, darling. Think about it.
What's so great
Think how wonderful you are.
Yeah, but what's so great about that? So there's nobody else like you and there's nobody else like me. Why is that something to be happy about?
Because you know how good God has been to you to make you unique.
Well, he could have made me rich, and I'd have been just as happy.
But you are happy, uniquely rich.
Okay.
You are uniquely rich.
All right.
And that's the part that lives.
All right.
That's the part that lives.
Have you ever dragged... let me do a commercial here, and I want to do something that might be fun with you. We'll continue with Ginger Rogers after these words from our sponsors and/or the NBC television network. With Ginger Rogers, will be at the Radio City Music Hall from tomorrow, Friday, May 2nd, until the 26th of this month. That's kind of a long run to keep going and going and going.
Sure that is, but we have Thursdays off.
Thursdays off?
Isn't that odd? Yeah.
That's very odd.
Yes, because maids stay out, so Mama's and Papa has to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
After the 26th of May, then what happens?
Well,
I want to know how much you work a year, I guess.
I work about 7 months a year, and I enjoy it, and then I take time off. And I don't always take it off in one hunk. But I take time off and generally have Christmas at home and have New Year's and all that sort of thing. Go to a few little parties and so on. Mm-hmm. But work about 6.5 months of the year, 7.
When you're not working, what do you do?
Golf, tennis.
Oh, you're a sports lady, huh?
I do painting, sculpting. I even do you ever work with your hands at the potting wheel? It's marvelous.
No.
It's fascinating. fascinating. You would adore it.
You mean with the clay where
Yes,
you...
it's fun. It's great fun. You could pass more hours and say, good heavens, this is a marvelous pot. And of course, it isn't a marvelous. It's something that you can buy at the dime store. But it's marvelous, you know. It's great fun.
But do you have that at your house?
Yeah, sure.
You go get the clay? And
sure, you get the clay, and then you can put it in the oven and bake it, paint it, send it to a friend, and they say, what is this? So, well, my name's on the bottom of it.
Well, some people it's needlepoint or crochet.
Yeah, well, I don't do those things because I enjoy active sports. I've been active all my life, and I like the active sports. So, but sculpting, painting, and drawing, and I love to sketch people.
Do you sell paintings at all?
No, I have them all stashed away.
Yeah, because some famous people, you know, they've now taken that up and they do it on commission.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a very good idea.
Have you thought of it? Maybe have a gallery do a showing or something?
I thought, well, I've been invited to have a showing of my things, but I really feel that I should have more things that I approve of before I put them. I would have to put some of the things that I really don't like very well. So to make it about 50, you ought to have about 50 things to show.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I love that. You should try doing the potting wheel sometime. It's great.
Oh, I do some potting, but I...
Now, come on. I was afraid you'd pick me up on that.
No. Did you ever see anything going through your life in show business? I mean, you've been in all the big movies and you've seen all the things go on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen things that really were distasteful to you, that you didn't like?
You mean in the movie?
Off-screen behavior.
Off-screen behavior? Oh,
I know you're a religious person. You believe in the Lord.
Yeah, certainly I do. Well, I think that you see things. Yes, of course you do. You see that daily. You see things that you don't like. Yeah, and you have to consider the source.
And close your eyes to it, or were you?
Love the person for not seeing their proper route of thought to make such unfortunate mistakes. You have to love them just the same. You do.
Sometimes it's hard, though. See, when you run into mean people, or...
Yeah. Well, the good book says you're supposed to love your enemies, and it's a hard thing to do, but it's necessary, because it purifies your own thinking if you do.
Do you ever get mad at anybody, Ginger Rogers?
Sure.
Or not mad, but angry with people.
I'm sorry that I do, too, when I do. I'm always sorry that I do, and I always apologize profusely and say, to myself, don't you ever do that again, young lady, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do. Sure do. I make lots of mistakes. But I always know when I make them, too. I always recognize after I've tripped that I have tripped over something, and I say, that's wrong. Sure. You bet.
Well, what's left for you? You've done the movies, you've done Broadway, you've done the television, now you're at the Radio City Music Hall. Now, and you just made a record, you told me?
Yes, I made a record in England for EMI, and all the songs, some of the songs that I will be doing over there are the ones that are on the record. It's really a good group of songs that, well, ones that you and I have probably loved, the Gershwins and the Porters and so on. So I made that, I guess it was about a year ago now. And so I'll probably keep up with my Ginger Rogers show. I've been invited to do a national company of a show, and I'm going to see how that works out if I do that. And
now,
otherwise,
was that the Ginger Rogers show? Or
No, I always have various things to do. The Ginger Rogers show, now I've been asked to do a national company of a musical comedy.
Can we know what one that is?
It's called Anything Goes.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Bring that one back and take it on the road.
Well, that's in the make. Mm-hmm. And so if that works out, fine, I'll do that. Otherwise, I would do the Ginger Rogers show and go from pillar to post and probably go back to South America.
I have the unerring feeling that you probably don't want for material to do. Well, you know, that if you don't do Anything Goes, you'll do the Ginger Rogers show, and if you don't want to do that, there'll be something else that you'll be able to do.
Yes, that's what I love about life, the activity. I think that's life itself, to be active, to do things. And so it's only maybe in a corner of the world. But look what joy you get out of bringing joy to others, even in a little corner of the world. And it's lovely to be loved, but it's also lovely to love. You know, to be able to bring something. I know I'm plucking the petals off of your flower.
All
He loves
people
me
may
like
be
you know.
unique, but I think you're just a little bit more unique than most
Oh,
of
you're
us.
wonderful. You're
And have a
wonderful.
great time at the Radio
Thank you
City
so
Music
much.
Hall.
I've enjoyed being with you, Tom. I knew I would.
Me
This
too.
is my first time being on your show, and I love it.
It won't be the last.
Sometime ask me again.
I sure will.
Promise?
Bring the potting wheel.
Okay,
We'll do that.
I'll do
You
it
got
together.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll continue now after this for the NBC television stations.
The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea,